And now, for another hour with RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. We are coming at you live. It's this behind-the-scenes show as we put together our weekly radio show. In studio with me, as always, is executive producer Jack.
Hello.
Our social media maven Sasha, and myself. In our main topics, we're going to talk about the transformative years. We've talked a lot about what is happening and what the technology is, but we really haven't talked about the impact and maybe the timetable. But I can tell you in the next decade is going to probably be the most momentous in the history of transportation in the world. And we'll just give you a little insight on, and maybe even a little debate on what that means. Finally, more used vehicles, fewer certified ones. We talked about here in past weeks about the coming glut of used vehicles coming off lease. We estimate about 19 million. But did you realize that the availability of certified used vehicles, vehicles that have been checked by the dealer with an extended warranty and usually sell at a premium, will actually be less? And we'll explore why with the help of Automotive News. And then finally, an over-the-road trucker responds to the introduction of Tesla's new Semi, and he raises some pretty interesting arguments that I thought would be worthy to share. We take a look at that Autoblog piece right here in our final segment this hour. So buckle in, settle in, and again, welcome. You are tuned to RoadWorthy Drive Behind the Scenes, and we're so glad that you joined us. Thanks. Jack, 11 minutes.
Here we go.
Party time.
Do you wanna go faster? Yeah!
It's RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester. Ken loves talking about cars and automotive trends. And here he is, the automotive host with the most, Ken Chester.
Welcome to another hour of RoadWorthy Drive. I'm your host and automotive tour guide, Ken Chester. Thank you for dropping by. With each and every hour that we spend together, I try to share information of interest in a way that's easily understood. Sometimes during my best efforts, I may get a little bit into the weeds, but that's why I have my team to pull me back out. Now, we have plenty to cover this hour, so I want to get started. In breaking news in a few minutes, it's all about the incredible shrinking automobile factory and how an upscale automaker is venturing into real estate. Starting with the next segment later this hour, I take issue with a recent Time magazine column and talk about the changes coming during the next 10 years. It's going to be quite a ride. Later, it's all about certified pre-owned vehicles and the upcoming scarcity of them during the next few years. That, in spite of the fact that we're going to have a glut of used vehicles coming off lease. For the last segment, the conversation will center around an over-the-road trucker's questions about Elon Musk's new Tesla Semi. All that and the usual banter right here. Before we delve into the topics for the hour, regular listeners know that they can become part of the conversation via call or text on the RoadWorthy Drive line. That number is 872-222-9793 and is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For those of you who are proficient with their fingers and would rather send an email, my address is ken@roadworthydrive.com. Either way, share your opinion, comment, or idea. All is welcome, even if you don't agree with me. I still want to hear from you. Now, RoadWorthy Drive is a weekly team effort that commands the loyalty and attention of a close-knit team of people. Chief of these is my good friend and RoadWorthy Drive executive producer, Jack DeLeon. Hey, Jack.
Ken, how are you? And by the way, I want to know how your weekend was.
My weekend was hectic and busy, but I understand you did something this weekend special. You want to share?
I can share, yes.
You can share.
I'm going to back up a week.
Okay.
It as you know, a couple years ago I bought a truck, and about a week or so ago we were somewhere, and it was a very windy day.
Mm-hmm.
We had all 4 of the doors open, and one of the doors smashed into my wife's leg.
Ouch.
Yeah, and not only did that, but it left quite a mark.
Okay.
And a week later, it still hurts.
Oh, my.
So we were in Omaha on Friday, and I just happened to say to her, let's go look at trucks. Now, we came home with a new truck.
You got bit by the new vehicle bug, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. However, it solves that problem.
And how's that?
When she hurt her leg, it was so deep of a bruise that we're having issues.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we decided to get rid of the extended cab and go get a 4-door.
Okay.
So we're happy with our decision.
All right.
And yes, Ken, she had to say yes before we could do it.
I know, because if Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Thank you.
So,
and guys out there, I just want to say this. Make sure Mama's happy that you don't come home with brand new shiny metal and don't tell Mama.
Yeah, not a good idea.
You know that firsthand by some of the things that you've seen in your years.
Hey, brother, RoadWorthy Drive does not condone buying the shiny metal without Mama's permission.
There you go.
Just saying.
Okay, Ken, since it was a very short week for most of us, what happened this week?
I'm going to start with, honey, I shrunk the factory. Seems like this guy in California wants to take a new approach using some modern technology to develop vehicles almost on demand in much smaller factories. As his thinking goes, the smaller footprint calls for less investment, which makes sense because the average investment on an auto assembly plant is between $500 million and a little over $1 billion. And you're talking about acres measured in square miles of factory and facilities and logistics and staging.
And plus all the concrete that it takes to make this all happen.
And that's at the very least.
Yeah.
But and the steel and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He thinks he can build a factory to build vehicles at scale for $50 million.
Okay, what is the size? My only question to this whole thing is, what is his height of his building?
Doesn't have to be that high. Different technology. They're not using.
If you get you're telling me that he's going to use overhead cranes.
I imagine he would, but you can nowadays, for what you need to do in a plant like this, he's using 3D metal printing machines. He's using other technology that is going to reduce the print, so needing the big stamping machines and the overhead conveyors and all that stuff, all that goes away. Because even like in a Volvo plant, you've got like little pods that go down. You don't need to do them overhead for all this stuff. You can still use conveyors. The floor plan he's got now is basically the size of a large grocery store. So you're probably talking less than 200,000 square feet.
That is small.
Because a large Walmart will set you back about 170,000 square feet. Yep. And it's a shame I even know that.
Okay.
Now, if you think this guy is smoking something strange, not so much. Because he's actually raised $28 million and is in the middle of a second round to raise $100 million. And he is developing vehicles for some automakers that he's not naming, and is working really closely with the PSA Group. They're the folks that just bought General Motors' Adams Opel German subsidiary over in Europe. So they build Peugeot and those models. And they're talking to the guy about doing this. Imagine this. Imagine small factories close to the market, designed for the market, that literally you order it on Friday, you get it on Monday.
They're building just in time.
You got it. And designed for the local market.
Boy, would that be something.
And his approach to manufacturing has been patented, and he's developed both a motorcycle and a sleek sports car prototype already. So there's been some level of proving the concept.
I'm just trying to figure out how you do just-in-time orders like that.
With material and equipment that allows you to do that. And that's his whole point.
And how many people are we putting out of business? I'm sorry, how many people are going to lose their jobs?
Well, see, I don't look at it like that because disruptive technologies have been around for years, for 200 or 300 actually years.
Well, that's true.
So this is just another thing. And besides, they'll be displaced into something else. But here's the thing. The only concern I have is how these vehicles fare in an accident.
Yeah, because as NTSB, NTSB,
Yeah, NHTSA. But let's keep it simple. It boils down to this. What this lends itself to be is an autonomous vehicle. Because autonomous vehicle, you don't need all that stuff because the computer is the brain, so your chances of being in an accident are way less. NHTSA estimates a reduction of accidents by 90%.
which we've talked about here before.
We have.
Now,
so food for thought on that.
Now, let's talk about this one I had a little trouble with when we did the pre-production meeting today.
Mm-hmm.
Aston Martin is going to build a condo.
Yeah.
Why?
And you because they want to expand the brand. There's only such a market. There's only so many $200,000 sports cars you can sell. And you want to expand the brand. Besides, they're not the first one. Porsche's did the same thing in Miami. And this is where this building is going to be. A 66-story condo with, they estimate 391 condos with prices ranging from $600,000, which is almost 3 times what my house cost, to $50 million each. Each.
Oh, we can take that out of petty cash.
Absolutely. Just don't tell Sasha that. They're looking to expand their appeal. They want to expand it as a luxury brand that happens to sell cars as opposed to just selling the cars.
Okay.
So they've expanded into like yachts, baby strollers, and other things that they've been doing, and handbags even. Can you imagine an Aston Martin handbag?
That's got to be over $1,000.
What would James Bond say?
I have no idea, but my wife would say no.
Yeah, well, they've got to do it, and there must be some ground for it because, like I said, Porsche's building is some 20 miles away, and Porsche even went as far as having a car valet that you can actually take your car, it'll spin around and park it for you in your building. Oh, it's way cool.
Talk about futuristic.
Way cool. Oh, well. When we come back, and we will come back, I'm going to take issue with a Time magazine article, and then I want to talk about the future, most notably the next 10 years. Later on in the program, I'm going to talk about more vehicles, meaning fewer certified, and see how that is going to work. You're cruising with Ken and Roadworthy Drive.
This is Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester.
What's
Two
on your
things.
mind? Yes.
Okay. Now, Jack, you brought up an interesting point about how many people are going to be out of a job, right? When we talk about autonomous plants or how they're going to be printing, the vehicles right there. There are actually a number of companies that as the plants go more and more autonomous or self-operating, they're moving those employees to and training them, paying for them to go to school and moving them into more engineering roles as opposed to just factory workers. So that way they're not necessarily handling the parts, but they are handling the equipment itself.
And that's cute. But here's what
It's not going to be it's not
here's the problem.
Everybody in the plant.
Here's the problem. Average age of a person on a shop floor right now in the United States in the auto industry is 48 years old.
Yep.
I can tell you, remember I said average, which means you've got half above that age, near retirement age. You're not going to retrain them. They're going to take the money, take an early retirement, and go off somewhere.
Right.
The younger ones are already been introduced to some technology. Not all of them are going to be well suited to be trained to be engineers. There'll be other industries. What y'all are forgetting, we've been here before.
Yeah.
What do you think happened in the horse and buggy days at the turn of the last century?
Yeah, but
That whole industry. If you are a buggy whip maker, if you are a horse and carriage maker, if you made carriages pulled by horses, you were out of business, Jack.
That's true.
Inside of 10 years, you were done. There was no demand for those. If you made different piece parts for the bridle or the saddles, you watched an industry drop. Didn't completely go away because we still have, horses and saddles and things like that. But as far as being the everyday for every person, if it's 1% of what it was 100 years ago, I'd be impressed.
No, I'm just saying that there are companies out there, and it's not every company, but there are companies out there that are making sure that just because technology is coming into the warehouse, it's not necessarily putting as many people out on the streets.
The question is, can you speak Chinese?
A little bit.
Yeah. The problem
Enough to get me in trouble.
The problem is that the jobs, which if you went back 50 years and things changed, you could go across town, do what you were doing with the skill set you had. Mm-hmm. Today, it's not across town. It may be halfway around the world.
Yep.
If you're lucky, halfway across the country. Now, I will say this before we get into our next segment. Detroit area is becoming a engineering hub, and it's becoming an autonomous hub. We've talked about that before. M-City, Planet M. The University of Michigan has various events going on. There is a lot of autonomous technology and places where autonomous technology is evaluated off-road in real time. So it's become that. And in our next show, we'll talk about one such manufacturer who decided to come to Detroit, who's not currently in Detroit. And I got some speculation on that because it leads to other things. But so much for that.
And we all know that when you were talking about how they're extending out their branding, we've all seen the picture of the guy that's, dangling his Porsche keys, wearing his Porsche coat, with his Porsche hat.
Porsche.
I don't care.
Yes, it's proper here at RoadWorthy Drive. Proper Porsche.
But you see where those kind of people are just, they are going to go to the craze. It would be hilarious.
They also have the money to go to the craze. $600,000 for a condo.
For a condo.
Which actually is cheap in New York if you could even find one at that price.
That's true.
It's even cheap in Miami.
Yeah, Miami's beautiful, though. But okay, people, second segment.
Yep.
You got the jingle cued?
Somewhere.
That's scary. And that would be...
That's why I'm the executive producer.
That would be
quickly.
That would be the Now Cars. The 1967 AMC.
Yep.
Yeah. The Now Cars. For 1967, though.
1967 forever and ever and always.
Totally.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Here we go.
The Now Cars. Rebel, the first excitement machines in the intermediate class. With engines for now, 343 Typhoon V8s. With innovations and styling for now. Rebel, with sizes for now. 114-inch wheelbase. Seats for 6. With quality and safety for now. Deep dish wheel, energy-absorbing steering column. Rebel. The first excitement machines in the intermediate class. Rebel. From the 1967 American Motors at your American Motors Rambler dealer now.
Do you really want a Typhoon under your hood? I don't even know how you would control one.
I don't know.
If you're just tuning in, welcome to RoadWorthy Drive, America's premier automotive news and information talk show. I'm Ken Chester. So glad you could join us. Now, for the past 2 years or so, I've spent plenty of time talking about the changes that are soon to come in the automotive industry. Electric vehicles, self-driving vehicles, mobility. I've covered these themes reliably and regularly. During my travels over the past week, I was reading a Time magazine article about increased fuel usage with the dawn of self-driving cars. While the writer did acknowledge that such a prediction was an extreme case, my take on it was a highly inaccurate one. And I want to talk about why that is a little bit. Now, in his example, and I'm gonna even call the guy's name, it was the Time article in the current edition of Time The name of the article was Why Self-Driving Cars May Not Lead to a Huge Drop in Fuel Consumption. And Justin Worland is his name.
Yeah.
Justin Worland, yeah. Here's my problem. Okay, let's just start with the easy stuff, okay? The easy stuff is the pact that was signed by the automakers in 2012 that locked in increased fuel standards to 2022 and 2025. Now, the 2025 standards may change because they agreed to look at it 2018. They didn't get them all the way codified, and the current administration is taking a second look at them. But they are locked into 2022, and it means, dear listener, that fuel economy is going to improve, and as Jack would say, wait for it, by 1/3.
1/3.
1/3. Average fuel economy now is about 25.4 miles to the gallon.
Right.
So you're going to add another 12 miles to the gallon, roughly. So you're going to be about 37, 38 miles to the gallon. That is average fuel economy for the fleet. Average.
Now, please,
Average.
please, for people who are tuning in for the first time, explain what you mean for the fleet.
Okay. Corporate average fuel economy standards called CAFE.
Every model that Ford, Chevy,
Basically,
Ford GM has.
Basically, the government's been sending CAFE standards for years, where the fleet has to average, and it's a complicated formula. I won't go into the weeds on that. That you got to come in at this number for your fleet. All right. Right now, the average is 25.4 miles to the gallon. Right now, this minute. Every new vehicle coming off the line, every new one, each year, is improving in fuel standards. It has to improve. Those averages got to improve by 1/3. That means more electrics. That means other alternative vehicles. And we've covered the gamut here from compressed air to solar to electric to battery operated. Heck, we've even talked about hydrogen and flying cars. All of these things got to come into the formula, which doesn't burn gasoline. This guy wants to talk about, and I'm going to read what he said. One report from the Department of Energy found that automated vehicles could reduce fuel consumption for passenger cars by as much as 90% or increase it by more than 200%. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, ain't going to happen. Now, his issue is the wide potential of outcomes is a result of a long list of variables of how a future of automated cars will take shape. Yeah, dude, it's called mobility, okay? We know that in the next 10 years, we are going to see the evolution, this incredible evolution of choices of how to get from point A to point B. Public transportation, ride sharing, ride hailing, electric cars, self-driving cars. There'll still be gas-powered cars. There'll be, I don't know, we even talked about a solar-powered car here. There's going to be choices of how you choose to get to point A to point B in the world, not just in America. This thing is going to be a worldwide phenomenon. The issue that he's even raising, that extreme case is so out there, because even if the electrics never showed up, in order to keep ground, you would have to increase fuel consumption by 10% a year for the next 10 years to offset the fuel standards. And it ain't growing like that. Now, his argument, which is kind of disingenuous, he said, well, automated cars will drive more mileage. That, sir, is true. The reason why, because more people will be using fewer cars, that car could be redeployed. His argument is that key barriers to hopping in a car, fatigue, age, intoxication, to name a few, will disappear, and car owners will be free to travel further even more frequently. You know what? You got a job. You got a life. You know, it's going to be bound by that. You're not, just because you can go farther doesn't mean you automatically will. And also, here's one I thought was really cute. And once in the city, car owners might instruct their vehicle to drive around in circles rather than pay for parking. That ain't going to happen. Number one, depending on your mobility choice, if you actually own the car, and chances are it will be an electric car, why would you burn the fuel, be it gasoline, if it still is, or it's an autonomous car, why you consume the electricity? Unless I was making money. Now, if somebody wanted to use it and I'm getting paid to do that, and there are different models popping up for that to happen, that's one thing. Or I might just want to park it, plug it in, and sell my excess power into the grid, which is also happening. A number of these battery-operated vehicles will have the ability to sell power into the electric grid. Think about that one for a minute and let it settle. And we're going to talk about that in a later show. So I'm like, man, really? No. You're looking at just by 2021. 2020 is ground zero. These are some of the automakers. And this ain't everybody. Volvo, Nissan, Infiniti, Lexus, Toyota, BMW, Volkswagen, Ford, GM are companies that already said we will have a vehicle on the road that's autonomous and probably does not burn gasoline by 2020, 2021.
Do you think they'll get the regulations for all that through Congress?
Congress is grappling with that right now. And I really think that it will be steps. It's not going to be one bill. It can't be. There's too many things to deal with. I think the rulemaking will happen in the U.S. Department of Transportation as well as NHTSA, and I think it will be evolutionary. But you're looking at 10 years of evolution, and I don't think the guy is right. I think that, yeah, it's an extreme case, but a highly unlikely one. There's too many market forces at play here that will render that a kind of a dull moment. I don't see that.
And I think I would have to agree with you after everything that we've talked about just here in the past few months.
Yeah, I don't see that. Well, next up, more vehicles, fewer certified. What's up with that? Finally, one trucker is concerned about the Tesla Semi. This is Roadworthy Drive.
Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester is America's premier automotive news and information talk show.
I could go on and on talking about these next 10 years, but this is the major takeaway. It's true. We don't know. Intended, unintended, regulatory, technology breakthrough, world disaster. All these things will come into play in the next 10 years that will shape what mobility looks like in the world. One thing is for absolute sure. The next 10 years will be as revolutionary as the first 10 years of the 1900s were for the auto industry. It's going to happen again. This is going to be our time. You're going to see things and you're going to have choices that nobody could have ever dreamed about. It's going to be amazing. Ownership's not going to go completely away, but it will change. Ride-hailing, sharing will have a place. Autonomous vehicles will grow. Electric vehicles and some other technologies will grow. One big question. We talked about in breaking news this guy's ability, perhaps, to build vehicles on demand. How will that change design, availability? Automakers who have to build hundreds of thousands of cars to make any money. How does that even change that? What does that do for insurance? What does that do for registration if you're still owning a car? Because this thing might only be sold in Los Angeles looking like that. But it may be based on a platform that's sold and it looks something different in the Middle West, which still may look something different in New England. And if you are a auto repair shop, how do you even deal with that? How do you even make crash parts? How do you just so many questions that are coming. Another item to throw in the swirling mix that is what I call the transformation years, which is 2020 to 2030. And actually, if I'm honest, 2020 to 2035. Really, the next 15 years is going to be one heck of a ride. But that's my take. Oh, wow.
I think I would have to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready for segment number 3?
I am not quite yet working. This would be third segment.
Mm-hmm.
Reset 9. Okay. We're going to talk about certified pre-owned vehicles.
Ready?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm. is segment 3 of this hour of Roadworthy Drive. Welcome. I'm Ken Chester. For those of you who want to need more than your fair share of the road, check out our website. That's www.roadworthydrive.com for the latest on what's going on. You can watch videos of our behind-the-scenes antics in studio, listen to audio clips of previous shows, and much more. The website is also a great place to check out what we're doing across the universe of social media. From Facebook to Twitter, Sasha, our social media diva, keeps things light, lively, and fun with her unique posts on all things automotive and tech during the week. See how she keeps the social in our social media, and please be sure to like us on Facebook. Now, I have previously reported to you about the coming used vehicle glut due to a large number of vehicles coming off lease. Well, I did talk about how that supply is going to suppress prices for those vehicles, an awesome deal for consumers, by the way. It also is threatening to reduce the availability of certified used cars. A recent supplement by the Automotive Trade Industry magazine, Automotive News, explores why, and we're going to talk about that a bit. Now, believe it or not, last year, there were some 2.4 million vehicles that were sold as certified pre-owned by automobile dealers in the United States.
Okay.
That number is slowing.
Why?
Well, a variety of things. In their recovery, they built a lot of vehicles, and that pent-up demand, they pushed out a lot of vehicles. They tweaked leases. The lease that makes me crazy is the 2-year, 24,000-mile lease that some larger automakers have been pushing. To me, I got a simple question. Why? I mean,
most people drive about 15,000 miles a year.
Yeah, but why 2 years? Why even be bothered? By the time you get settled in that car, lease is up.
Yep.
And I'm like, what's the point? Well, for the automaker, it's a chance to keep pushing cars. And because it's so short, here's the weird part about leasing. The lower the mileage, the newer the car, the higher the car is worth, the more the car is worth at the end of the lease.
Mm-hmm.
That means the less you have to pay for the use of the car. Because when you're leasing, you're not buying the car. You're paying for the use of the car over time based on a formula. At the end of that formula, the automaker knows that car should be worth this. Based on this, the difference between what it costs and what it's worth is what you're paying for, plus a percentage for the use of money that you borrowed as part of the lease payment, and that's your lease payment. And obviously, if they can get that residual up, they can get that monthly lease payment down, which makes it more attractive to more people. Here's the downside on that. The downside on that is those vehicles are coming back into the used car market. And we've estimated from industry sources that's 19 million vehicles over the next 3 years.
Okay, I was about to ask you about
Now, here's the problem. If you've got this many vehicles coming back of quality, why would you pay a premium for a certified used vehicle in a market like that?
Because you don't want to take the drive off when you buy a new one.
No, not even close.
Okay, why?
It gets down to money.
Okay.
On average, you know, in order for the inspections, the extended warranty, and all that, you're going to pay on average for a certified used vehicle anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 more.
Right.
Now, if I've got a vehicle in similar shape, it's 2 years old, 3 years old, I'm going to get it inspected, I'm going to get a Carfax on the thing, why would I pay $2,000 more when instead of the typical market, there may be 50 cars meeting this criteria? Get it checked out by a mechanic, take it to my dealer, have them give it the once over if the thing's in good shape. 2-year-old car ain't going to be that bad, and trust me, the manufacturers are not offering those cars that have a problem to the dealers to resell anyway. Those are going to go to general auction or they're going to go somewhere. But they're not going to be the ones that the manufacturer fools with. But these cars got to go somewhere. 19 million. And remember, the industry is only absorbing about 22.4 million a year. And that's at its height, and that number's dropping. The dealer's got to pay money up front to recondition these cars and to meet the standards that the manufacturer set for these certified pre-owned cars. It could be upwards of 120 to 184 point inspection. And they may have to do things, and they got to run those through the shop, and that's a cost. If you've got 50 cars out there that are as good as the one that you're going to spend this money on, why would you? Now, peace of mind, yeah. But again, if you're in a tight squeeze and the price of these vehicles are dropping because there's so many of them, it doesn't make economic sense to certify them because you're losing money because they're going to be worth less than a residual. So the factory's going to lose money on the resale. The dealer's going to lose money because he's got a car there that, you know, is going to cost $2,000 more, but this car's every bit as good. It's just not certified. And if $2,000 means something, and it does to a lot of people, which is why you're looking at certified pre-owned as opposed to a new one in the first place, why do it? Why do it? And that's the big problem the dealers are facing. You know, you're going to look at the vehicles that are in high demand where they sell a lot of pre-owned and they sell a lot of certified pre-owned. Those are the ones they'll put money in, but they're going to have to really look at the market because they don't want to end up with pre-owned with a certified pre-owned vehicle that won't sell because there's an abundance of others that model, that make, that year, that mileage that are every bit as good, but they're $2,000 less. And that, sir, is the problem. Now, what amazed me, just for some statistics that I was looking at in this automotive news item, I'm going to the last page. What was the top certified pre-owned brand last year?
If I'm going to guess, it was either probably Chevrolet or Ford.
No.
Toyota.
It was Toyota. And that blew my mind. Chevy was number one till 2008. Toyota's been number one since, which is interesting because a used, typically my experience, a used Toyota on the lot don't sit, certified or not. They just don't. They have that kind of story. I was, in a previous life, an automotive purchase consultant. Was working with a client who traded in, let's say it was a 5-year-old Camry, had 101,000 miles on it. She was buying an Avalon. I told her when we got to the dealer that car would be sold before the engine got cold.
Yep.
Would you believe before we had signed the papers on the Avalon, somebody was test driving that car?
No, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah. That car was sold before we left. The car she traded was sold before we left. So I was amazed that Toyota would be that high on the list. Makes me wonder why, but yeah, I was surprised. Second place is Chevrolet. Not a surprise there. I was surprised. Ford is actually number 4. Honda is number 3. Number 10 on the top certified pre-owned brands, Jeep. Imagine that. When we return for the last segment, one trucker's concerns about the new Tesla Semi. RoadWorthy Drive is heard exclusively on the RoadWorthy Drive Radio Network.
You're tuned in to RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
In 2016, 2.6 million, I said 2.4. It was actually 2.6 million were certified pre-owned.
Okay.
Toyota was 417,000 of that total.
Yeah.
Chevy was was just a third less, at 272,000. Ford, for all the vehicles they sell, actually had fewer certified pre-owned than Honda did at 242,000. You get all the way down. In fact, let me just read the names. Toyota, Chevrolet, Honda, Ford, Nissan, BMW,
Wow.
Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, who started this. Lexus actually started this whole program almost 30 years ago when they launched. That's how they got popular. This whole certified pre-owned was Lexus, and they're number 8. Hyundai and Jeep at 83,000 units. Jeep's on the uptick as Cadillac, and another brand who's seeing an increase in certified pre-owned, Ram. Now who's down? Fiat, Volkswagen, Volvo, Acura, and Chevrolet. Chevrolet's off 12.5%.
Yeah, but it is no surprise. I mean, something should be said by the fact that while Lexus might have started it, Toyota has earned a reputation for their, as far as in their automotive. And I mean, I don't know, when I was a kid, when I was in college, it was Honda. You wanted yourself a 1992, 1986, like Honda Civic, Honda Accord, because you could roll it, torch it, drown it, still going to turn over, still going to run.
Yep.
Toyota is the one that is actually getting that reputation, I guess.
Let me break the news to you.
Go ahead.
Toyota's always had that reputation for the last almost 40 years.
Never heard of them.
Here's the thing. I'm not sure that falling numbers of certified pre-owned is a bad thing. It may mean that the demand for your product is up, that you don't need to be certified. I want what you got.
Right.
Now, let me tell you a real quick story from Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting in the finance office,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking to the guy
That's a scary place, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
I was in there.
I'm
And
sorry.
this guy shows me a picture
Mm-hmm.
of a vehicle back in their shop.
Mm-hmm.
The cab and the box are off the truck.
Okay.
The truck had 37,000 miles. They still haven't figured out what's wrong with it.
Okay.
Guy did not take the extended warranty.
Of course not.
Right now, as of Friday, he was at $11,000 in labor.
Let me help you with that. I'll tell you exactly what would have happened. If that was my truck, the Ford Motor Company would have bought it back, and they would have heard from my lawyer.
Yup.
Because, number one, no, that's a dealer thing. Ain't no way I'm paying that kind of money unless it was a used truck. Well, hold on. If I bought it new, no. Even if it was just out of warranty, no.
See, that's my thing, because at
no.
that point, Jack, you're showing me a truck that they don't know what's wrong with it at 30-something thousand miles.
37,000 miles.
37,000 miles, I'm walking out the door. I'm walking out the door. I'm getting my bag of peanuts. I'm leaving. Because I'm not going to spend that kind of money for a brand new vehicle and then have it sit in there for 11.
Here's the question. You probably don't know if the person that bought it used?
No, they bought it new.
They bought it new?
Mm-hmm.
From that dealer?
From that dealer.
Let me help you. According to that automaker, supposedly their powertrain warranty is 5 years, 60,000 miles.
Yep.
They're supposed to have a strong warranty, and from what you tell me, that truck should be under warranty.
Yep.
Well, he was over by 1,000 miles.
Let me tell you a story, real quick, really quick.
I would have walked out.
My dad bought a brand new, and this was a while ago, 73 Pontiac Le Mans Safari wagon, brand new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little over 1,000 miles out of warranty. Torque converter failed.
That's in the transmission, by the way.
Yeah. They dropped the pan. Let me put it to you this way. You will never forget the smell of burnt transmission fluid. Ooh. It stays with you. I was halfway across the field when they dropped the pan on that car. And that whiff came up, slapped me upside the head. I'll never forget it.
Woo.
They put it together, and they thought Dad was going to pay for it. No, you better call a tech rep. I'm not paying for it. Chet, you got to pay for it. No. And this is the story where they kept his keys. They forgot. Dad had a separate set of keys. Enlisted his young son, me, partner in crime. He said, go over there to the door and hit the open. Got in his car, drove it out. I closed the doors. We went home. My dad never did pay for that repair.
Yep.
They ate it. Here's the thing, and I say this to consumers. When you get to a point like that, there comes a point where the dealer needs to make it good and the manufacturer does.
Yep.
You don't know what's wrong with it, but I paid money for it and probably still paying insurance and paying a monthly payment on a vehicle I can't drive.
Yep.
People know that vehicles have problems. Okay. I mean, reality has a problem.
Yeah.
But if you're a vehicle and you've got it cab off, box off, you are down to the running frame,
yep.
You still don't know what's going on? No, you should have bought that truck back from me.
Well, I mean,
And if not, the Attorney General would love to hear about it.
Yep.
Which I would be talking to the Consumer Protection Division. I'd be talking to arbitration. My lawyer would be in touch with the Ford Motor Company.
At what point do you also possibly, at this point, because it's been months.
Oh no, it wouldn't have been months.
Okay,
But here's my
at what point do you go after the lemon law?
I give you 2 months, because there's a clock that starts the day you buy it.
Yep.
At least in our state.
Yeah.
You got 24 months under the lemon law. Okay, but the problem is the lemon law mainly is for safety violations.
Yep.
Not something like this. However, most dealers I know that are legitimate and fair, if it got that bad, they would have done something with the factory to make this person whole.
But here's my thing. I mean,
No.
as a consumer, seriously, am I the only one that is a huge red flag? That I'm sitting in your F&I and I'm about to sign over
Yeah, and you're showing
my
me something
life,
like that?
and you're telling
Your
me,
brand now.
and you're telling me that you're going to charge this customer that you also sold a brand new car $11,000, and I'll bet you he was trying to get you to get the extended warranty.
Yeah,
like he was using it as an example.
But here's the problem.
And that just so many red flags.
But you missed the point.
Woo!
The vehicle's in pieces.
I know.
The owner can't drive it.
Yep.
They don't know what's wrong with it.
Yep.
Which means the manufacturer's tech people should have been all over that thing.
Yep.
And you're going to show this to me?
Yep.
Say, whoa, man, whoa. Maybe I'm buying the wrong brand here.
I said that from the get-go. When he
Said
first
I
told
need to
us
walk out.
Yep.
I did that. Represented a client at a dealership, F&I office. Tried to send an extended warranty.
Yep.
My take on extended warranties, if I'm buying new, is no. It's a money grab.
Yep.
It's 100% markup money grab
Yes.
in today's world.
Yes.
Now, used kind of depends on your mileage.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's a money grab as far as I'm concerned.
Right?
F&I person sat there, and I said, no, I don't usually do that. I said, and I forgot what he said. He said, well, all cars have defects. I stopped.
Oh.
I said, you know what? Now, if it was me and not the person I was representing, I'd have ripped up that contract and walked out and made sure I dropped by the sales manager's office to tell him, this individual, and I would have named his name, lost your sale.
Yep.
Because he just basically told me that you're selling junk.
Yep.
And I'm going over to another dealership. I'm not even going to buy your brand.
Yep.
At all.
Yep.
I have no problems with that. Why? Because I've been in the factories. I've been in the plants. I know the engineering. Now, yeah, you do have problems from time to time.
Yep.
But this major stuff, no, not today. Engines failing, transmission, no. The failure rates, and this was by the late 1990s. What do you think the transmission failure rate was? Average in the early 1990s for an automatic transmission across everybody's manufacturing.
I have no idea.
2%.
And they've got, now...
Engines don't fail.
Yeah.
Engines only fail when the consumer does not take care of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's an oil change?
But my point is this. If you get to that point, you should have made me whole months ago.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll give you a month. By reason of strength and communication, and we've done business a long time, 2 months.
Yep.
If you ain't got it figured out by then, you got two choices. Buy it back or put me in something else.
Yep.
Now, if you're going to put me into something else, do you put me back where I would have been at the point of where the
you got to make me whole. The new vehicle I just bought from you, your brand, ain't working.
Yeah, basically.
Make me whole.
Yeah.
Whatever that means financially, which means to make me whole, you give me another vehicle of mileage, year, and equipment at the same price so I can just cruise on.
Yep.
Wherever I was. Because all I want to do is drive.
Yeah.
Okay? Even that vehicle that he showed you is rare for that make.
Yes, it is.
Okay? However, it does happen.
Yeah,
It might be the 1/10 of 1%.
Right.
But my point is, it said, unfortunately, and I'm not slamming anybody, it said more about the dealer than it said about the manufacturer.
That's exactly my point.
Because they should have made that person whole. That's my take.
And that was really, and personal opinion here, that was really, 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 really crappy for them to do. There's somebody out there hurting.
Yeah,
somebody
they
out
should've
there
made-
is
well,
hurting.
we don't know
And
the-
they have the nerve to be
Well.
like, here's a picture that I took, and scaring you to spend more money.
But in fairness, okay, we don't know how that was resolved. We don't know if they made the person whole, and they just keep in the picture and say, this could happen to you.
Oh,
We don't know.
but that's even worse.
But we don't know. So
No,
we need to be
quite hon-
fair
quite
here
honestly,
and
we
not
don't
beat
know.
up on the dealer because we don't know.
And the only reason why I did not buy the extended warranty, it shot up
Mm-hmm.
$1,500 from 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you know
It was
what?
That number.
And you know what? Most of that is dealer profit.
Hey, I've got a question, real quick.
Yeah,
real quick, because I can talk.
Can you though?
Now,
It's okay.
Can you tell we have fun here?
We do though.
we do.
Ask your
Okay.
question.
Now, obviously, I don't go for the extended warranties either. With a used vehicle, which is typically what I buy, I actually go for I'm sure you've heard about them, the warranty plan, insurance plans, where they
Yeah.
actually cover, like, if something...
Let me help you.
Go ahead.
That terminology is illegal.
Is it really? Now, I don't buy it from the dealership.
No. It's illegal.
Okay.
Unless you bought it from your insurance agent,
Right.
it is a service contract.
Oh.
And it's very specific, and the FTC is very specific.
Okay.
Because they like to play fast and loose with insurance plan and extended warranty when it's a service agreement. And there are differences. The problem is it's different by state,
Yeah.
and you have to be careful. My problem with any of these is if I did my due diligence, even on a used car, which I always do,
Right.
am I going to catch everything? No. But nowadays, you should be able to take that to a dealer of that make, spend the $75 to $100. They're going to plug that thing in, and one that's going to be able to tell you all the outstanding recalls on that vehicle, any service bulletins for that VIN, what kind of shape and health that vehicle is in electrically, and then they'll do the walk around and pull off wheels and look at things and listen to it and be able to tell you. I always advise anybody, if you're buying a used vehicle, you got a repair shop you trust, spend the $75 to $100 to have the walk around done. If you don't know anybody, take it to a reputable dealer of that make and have them do it. Why? Because number one, there's a lot of service bulletins that are not safety bulletins that will affect the running and performance of your vehicle. Two, sometimes there are, what do I call them? Adjustment things that they'll do to make something right. It's not a recall and it's not a service bulletin, but it's something that they need to do. Sometimes, knowing the VIN, you get an extended warranty because of a problem, all kinds of things. So it pays to spend that money. And obviously, on a used car, to me, this is just Ken's rule of thumb here.
Ken's rule of thumb.
I know. If you're looking at a 2 to maybe 5 or 6 year old car,
Yeah.
I take it to the dealer.
Right.
If you're looking at a vehicle that's older than 6 years old, unless you've got a specific problem with it and you're looking at buying it, any reputable repair shop that has the right diagnostic equipment can do it, and you can save time, particularly if it's somebody you've traded with. I've got several shops I do business with that I trust,
Yep. Me too.
that I would take an older vehicle to say, hey, I'm thinking about buying this. Can you give it the once over and tell me what I'm dealing with
Yep.
here?
I've got a guy.
Yeah. What I'm looking for, major engine damage, major transmission damage, major drivetrain damage, CV joints, which is for a front-wheel drive car, universal joints for a rear-wheel drive car, any kind of whine in the rear axle or brakes that are mushy or don't act right, stuff like that.
Right.
So, enough
Okay,
of that.
Let's go.
8 minutes, 50 seconds.
8 minutes, 50 seconds.
See what happens when we get off topic.
But we weren't off topic, though.
No, we weren't off topic because, again, like I said, I'm one that if I'm buying used, I'm buying a certified used. But then
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just me.
The issue, though, is there's going to be less of them.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Here we go.
8:50.
Here we go. Quiet on the set.
Thank you for joining us for the last segment of this hour of Roadworthy Drive. I'm Ken Chester. If you're a bit of a techie, you might remember hearing about the unveiling of a new electric 18-wheeler over-the-road truck by Tesla. Yes, I said Tesla. While there were plenty of oohs and ahs, you may not have heard any reaction from those who drive a truck for a living. Well, I stumbled across this recent piece on Autoblog by an over-the-road trucker. He had questions, and he had concerns, and I thought they were valid after reading the piece, and I wanted to share them with you, see what you thought. One trucker's take, and he had some questions. Now, he talked about driving a Kenworth T680 on a flatbed. He's put on about 90,000 miles a year. His words, and I'm going to quote him, "While we don't know what the production truck will achieve when it hits the road, but the semi has a lot going for it. Nevertheless, the semi seems to be most impressive to those who don't know what it's like to be a truck driver." So let's talk about some of this. Now, the trucker, and his name was Jonathan Ramsey. It was in Autoblog this past week. And he says, first, let's clear up what this truck is for as presented. It is not an over-the-road truck. This truck suits line haul routes that run between a company's terminals, like one regional Walmart distribution center to another. When Musk made the case for 20% savings over a diesel truck, he based the numbers on a 100-mile trip, 50 miles out, 50 miles back. The semi would be perfect for port work, which involves a lot of waiting, idling, stop-and-go traffic, local out and back trips. My aside right here. Toyota is already validating a prototype hydrogen-powered truck in the port of Long Beach that does this on a 200-mile cycle a day right now, 4 months. Just so you know. Just need to throw that out there. This version of the semi, the writer continues, will not replace the dozens of thousands of trucks on huge regional or coast-to-coast runs clocking 2,000 to 5,000 miles a week. I thought that was interesting. He only addresses a few of the issues he had. I thought they were interesting enough to talk about. Now, one of the things he says, the central seating position. And I would have not thought about this, but I was looking at trucks today, and he's right. He says, I already get a commanding view of the road in a traditional truck because I sit 6 feet above traffic. What I need is a commanding view of my own truck, which the central seating position compromises. Where do you think the worst blind spot in a tractor trailer is?
Probably right behind you. Where?
The doors. If you're right beside him, you ever notice in a conventional truck why truck doors have those lower windows?
Right, because if you're right next to the semi,
The
there's
only way
no
he
mirror
can
for
see
that.
you.
Yeah.
Well, but I'll argue that point because I'm going to use this, and this is just a term. Most trucks now have what they call busboy mirrors.
Which mean?
Which means that you get a clear view down the entire side of that truck, from the front of the truck to the back of the truck.
But do they actually include like what would be the car?
Yes, it does.
Like if you're driving like a little Fiat. Like I'm thinking the smaller.
I drove school buses for years.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but here's his point. The central seating position hampers my commanding view that when I need the view the most. And you just made this point.
Correct.
When I back up.
Yep.
He wants more mirrors. He says, for any backing maneuver, I watch both sides of my trailer with my mirrors, make sure I don't clobber anything, as I lean out of the truck to watch the trailer as I back. Being able to physically watch the trailer, not camera images on screens, can be the difference between making a clean backup or making an insurance claim.
And he's right.
I was counting mirrors, by the way, on tractor-trailer trucks I saw today.
Right.
Yeah. Here's his thing, and I'm skipping. Here's the other thing he says. Furthermore, I can't see from the central driving position.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see around trucks in front of me without pulling halfway into the other lane. When I need to exchange paperwork with a guard at the terminal, when you pull up to a terminal and you hand paperwork, or the police, I can't lean out of the window. Speaking of which, I have to believe that one of the windows on the Tesla semi rolls down, but he said I can't figure out which one. And it appears from the renderings that the windows only vent. Well, that's not happening. He makes a point. I I'd want more mirrors. The silver condo sleeper truck at the presentation only had cameras. Yeah, that wasn't happening. Most new trucks come with mirrors mounted on the front fenders. I've seen that today. 2 trucks that provide view of the front corners. My Kenworth had 7 mirrors in total, and I've seen plenty of trucks with more. You'd be amazed at the number of tiny concrete and reinforced steel impediments lurking at truck stops and customer terminals.
Yep.
I know that such mirrors would hamper the aerodynamics on the semi, but when those $8 contraptions could save thousands on carbon fiber repairs and downtime, I don't see why anyone would do without them. Now, he likes his physical mirrors, and I'm skipping a little bit. He said, now, we want a vehicle that accelerates like nothing else. That's what they said at the presentation. This is what the trucker said. I understand acceleration is a core Tesla brand value, but I'm more interested in braking. Let me break this down to you people. Okay, let me break this down. Can I talk, please? 80,000-pound tractor trailer needs 550 feet to come to a complete stop from 55 miles an hour.
How many feet?
550 feet. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute. Note to self, don't brake check a semi. No. Thank you. Yeah, not happening. He spent a surprising portion of every driving shift not to obliterate the car in front of him, of drivers who weren't aware of that fact. Show me how much the semi can lop off that braking distance. Now, let me break down some weight for you. He said, Elon Musk said, jackknifing is impossible. The trucker said, that's a lie, unless the Tesla semi and Tesla trailer can counteract physics and human error. Now, he just used this Freightliner for an example.
Right.
Empty. The tractor weighed 9 tons, 18,000 pounds.
Wow.
The trailer added 8 more tons. So you're looking at 17 tons empty.
Right.
Now, add a load, 23 tons of 46,000 pounds. So you're rolling full 40 tons.
Yep.
Full.
Yep.
Did I mention 40 tons?
Yes, you did.
You may have.
He said, when stuffed to the gills, I had 62,000 pounds ready to push me around or come around. If either through physics or human error the drive wheels or the trailer brake loose too far, yeah, it won't stop the semi. On that note, we're out of time as usual. On behalf of Jack, Sasha, and myself, thanks for listening. This has been RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester is a copyrighted presentation of the RoadWorthy Drive Radio Network. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other use is prohibited without the written consent of the Motor News Media Corporation.
Let me read that again. When stuffed to the gills, I had 62,000 pounds ready to push me around or come around. If, either through physics or human error, the drive reels or the trailer break loose too far, the Tesla semi won't stop the jackknife. That's straight up physics.
Yeah.
Ice somebody.
Yeah.
Did I mention 40 tons empty?
Yep.
Okay.
40 tons empty.
I have a hypothesis, though.
80,000 pounds.
I know.
Empty.
Mm-hmm.
People, semis take 550 feet to stop at 55. Most of the semis you're going to encounter are rolling 65 or 70 unless they are regulated in some states to a lower speed, which means they're going to need further to stop at least fully loaded, meaning do not, please, brake check a semi. Otherwise, you're going to be part of the semi, and not in a good way. And in fact, I'm trying to think, saw a vehicle recently, a Toyota Corolla, that fought a semi.
And lost.
And lost.
And lost. Was up underneath it.
Yo.
It was not pretty.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you going to say?
Okay, I understand where he was talking about the mirrors. Okay, I totally get it. Because when I was looking at, and I watched the interview, and have never drove a semi at all. I've got dear friends that have, careers that were made, okay? And he didn't really go into the tech of the new Tesla semi. But I did have a question, because with today's technology that is in current vehicles, like you had talked about your Volvo that you absolutely loved, right?
I want me an S90.
Talk to the adult in the room.
He won't buy me one.
Are you serious?
No,
Seriously.
I will not buy him one.
So,
Me, hater.
I was wondering if Tesla had perhaps incorporated a more advanced sensor system or laser system within the semi
We've talked
to
about
counteract,
We've talked about analog brakes.
right?
We've talked about stability control.
Right.
Those will mitigate, and they'll have to be supersized. I don't know if a new truck today has those technologies.
Right.
I'm willing to bet it has some of them.
Right.
I don't know, and the writer didn't say the age of his Freightliner.
Okay, but if, like in today's semis, right, do they have the blind spot detection where it dings on the mirror?
But that wouldn't help him. All he knows is there's something there. He needs to know what it is.
Right, but what I'm saying is with the Tesla, and I understand that he doesn't want to look at a computerized, camera version, like what we would look at in a rear view.
Well, they also, those of us that have rear view cameras,
Right.
the message is still use your mirrors.
Right.
Yep. And
Still
I'm old
work.
school, because what I do, I use the mirrors for reference, and I'll use that to figure out how close I am to what I'm backing up to. But as far as side to side,
Right.
yeah, I don't use that camera. I use the mirrors.
But that's exactly my point.
And that's what the truckers do.
I don't understand why the engineers at Tesla designed what they designed, and they put it out there in a way that, as it stands right there, while it was on the platform, anyone who drives truck was like, how am I supposed to see?
Okay.
Well,
Duke,
and then if you also look at it too, the doors all open backwards.
Yeah.
two things.
Yes, sir.
First thing, nevertheless, the semi seems most impressive to those who don't know what it's like to be a truck driver. Number one.
Okay.
And that's number two, it is a prototype. Many automakers make prototypes that have to be modified or further designed to meet federal motor vehicle safety standards.
And who in the government is going to allow that to happen if they see some kind of a danger with that center seat?
Well, okay, first of all,
is he-
the vehicle, we don't know, and I'm willing to bet money it doesn't, meet current federal
Right.
motor vehicle safety standards.
And what
So
is
let's see, what we need to see, a pre-production model, which will have those changes.
Is it designed not necessarily to be driven so much as to be operated? Is it meant to be like an autonomous semi, or is it meant to be a driven? Do you see what I'm saying?
It is a highly automated vehicle. You still have those problems.
Okay.
What it would require is even more sensors.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's a question, you'd need sensors along the trailer.
You would have to.
Well, hold on. So what are you saying? You're talking to the trailer industry.
Yeah.
And truck companies that own their own trailers ain't about to drop that kind of money for brand new, sophisticated trailers. That ain't happening.
See, a very good friend of mine, we're having this discussion because he's like, okay, so now you're talking about you're not just buying. If you decide to employ a Tesla semi truck, you're buying the truck and the trailer.
You're buying a truck and a trailer.
Right. You can't. And then as a truck driver now.
There are millions of these trailers. There is no way that
Well,
makes
and
sense. Except for what the truck driver in this article said, point to point.
And the other thing, too, is if you're an independent trucker, that would work. You could buy the truck and the trailer.
Right.
That would work. However, if you're somebody like UPS, FedEx, Conway Freight, those guys who have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of trailers, Ken's right. You're not going to spend that kind of buck to put that technology on your trailer.
But let's flip this a minute.
Go ahead.
According to him and according to the model, it is designed for companies like Walmart and like FedEx and like UPS. Round the corner from my office, I am in a part of town where there are a lot of coast-to-coast, over-the-road contract mail haulers.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Just looking at a bunch of brand new trailers that one of the haulers parked on the street because it's that season and they're brand new. Brand new. They ain't not brand new.
Okay.
Because I live near a regional postal center or an RPC.
Right.
And there's probably 5 or 6 companies near my office that have 18-wheelers and they do the over-the-road stuff and they're hauling trailers and all that stuff. Bottom line, this actually works better. Because here's the other question. If you're an owner-operator, how many loading docks is that trailer compatible with?
And what if Tesla...
And you're not about to leave it. And here's another question. Is the Tesla tractor compatible with a standard trailer?
Well, and then you're talking about
question.
a one-size-fit-all, so that is he thinking that he's going to sell, and I don't even know how this would work, but is Tesla thinking that they are going to sell like a one-size-fits-all for universal trailers? So for
Well,
just like the lasering systems?
Well,
we don't even know
that yet.
about what the
Yeah.
issue is on the trailer.
Because
I mean, it's a pretty looking ride if you don't think beyond the fact that it's a pretty...
Practicality.
Right? I mean,
Well,
it's,
Is it practical?
but again, I could not tell in the video that I saw. Did one of them have a sleeper on it?
This one had a sleeper.
yeah, it had a
Okay,
sleeper.
it
Yeah.
did. Okay,
And actually, that's disingenuous. If it's only good for 100 miles, where you sleeping? Grinnell?
well, okay, and where's your APU unit too?
Huh?
Where's your APU unit too that most of the truckers have now?
Yeah.
So it boils down to that.
Okay, we need to go, bud.
We do, and before we conclude here, because we're still transmitting, they're talking now. Companies like Walmart and J.P. Hunt have placed orders for these semis. They have the routes, terminal control, and money for terminal infrastructure. Yeah, if you're going terminal to terminal, that makes sense in
That's one
maybe
thing.
a 300 to 500 mile route.
Yep.
Beyond that, it's not practical. So more on this. We will keep an eye on it. On behalf of Jack, Sasha, and myself, thank you for this extended version of RoadWorthy Drive Behind the Scenes. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.